Hi everyone, Elliot here, and I'm doing a video post again this week for my group discussion. And so this week we're focusing on the person-centered approach. And the interview with Chris Weeks, the video describing his role as a community connector. And so, yeah, there's a lot of ways that his approach aligns with what I read about the person-centered approach. So for a few examples, starting off when he talks about how every individual has the ability to express given the opportunity to do so, this definitely aligns with Carl Rogers' theory of self-actualizing tendency, that all humans are moving towards self-actualizing. When Chris talks about the environment that they created using the drum circle, it sounds a lot like that to me is an example of unconditional positive regard, where people are coming into this safe environment, and so they're expressing themselves in ways that they might not have if they weren't in that environment. And I think his role as the facilitator really fosters that positive self-expression. And just the programming focusing on the assumption that the positive environment will foster self-reliance, and I think that it takes a facilitator to create that positive environment. So he speaks about individual expression in groups and how the environment of safety and trust facilitates magical exploration. Those are his words. And he talked about the individual becoming the welcomer of new people. And he talks about how every individual expresses in their own way, and this expression has to happen spontaneously. So when I think about the readings, they talk about the role of the client in person-centered theory, and they talk about the client starting off as incongruent and then learning to be responsible for themselves, and the client as a person. This definitely seems to be how Chris was viewing the people coming into his program. He says something too. He says we are humans being, and that really makes me think about the role of the therapist, about the therapist as being, not doing, and to be present and accessible, which definitely sounds like that's the goal of his program. And so I think he is creating that accurate empathic understanding, and for him as the therapist, he's having to have that, or as the group facilitator, he's having to have that congruence. One of the things he talks about bureaucracy and that getting in the way of authenticity, and that also made me think about the therapist congruency in person-centered therapy. In other words, to be genuine, and so Chris talks about not getting caught up in bureaucracy and still being authentic and still being ourselves. And that actually really made me think about when I facilitated a youth group. We were run through the Vancouver Coastal Health Authority, and I remember finding that really difficult to just be myself as the youth group facilitator, but having all these kind of bureaucratic expectations coming down from the health authority, and just making it difficult sometimes to create the groups that we wanted, because there was always kind of rules and risk. It was all about avoiding risk, so it was a bit frustrating. So I really liked what he said, where you do just have to focus and be yourself when you're doing this work. And so I did see in some ways his approach did differ a little bit from and extend from the ideas in the readings. I think when he talked about taking safe risks in the culture of safety and growth, I think in that way he's moved away a little bit from the client-driven aspect of person-centered practice. So for example, when he puts that woman on the spot to lead the circle, I see him kind of taking a more active role than what I interpreted person-centered approach to be. That's just the facilitator initiating change. I think is a little is a little bit different there. And then when I was relating his work to other ideas we've been discussing so far in this course, I thought about that video that Alicia posted. It was Tanchai Revers, and she describes the person living in the house dominated by oppression and colonialism. This makes me think of the individual being in a state of incongruence with their environment, and then she describes the new structure that included affirmation and support, and relatable role models, and challenging of current norms. Um, and so that really made me think about just looking at a person's environment, and how that is going to create that state of incongruence. And then the other thing that Chris Weeks, his work made me think of our discussion on multicultural theory when we talked about the psychological healing bridge in our discussions that week. The drum circle that he used really made me think of like a non-Western approach to create this healing for the people that he's working with. My final thought with thinking about person-centered theory this week is that I don't think you can really be person-centered without it leading to social justice, because if you're listening to the youth that you're working with and trying to gain an understanding of why they're in that state of incongruence, it's most likely going to lead you to social justice. I'm curious what you all think about that, and hope the video wasn't too long. I did have a lot to say about this one, and it's hard to pare it all down, but I'm looking forward to discussing with you all this week. Take care. Bye.